ready to start? Okay. Right. Okay, so hello and good afternoon and welcome to the event Gender Inequalities in the Cultural Sector, a roundtable of experience sharing. We are very, very happy to have you here today with us to discuss this important topic with us. So thank you very much to all of you. Before getting into the heart of the project, of the event, sorry, I would like to make a short introduction. So first of all, my name is Roberta Magherini. My pronouns are she, her. And I am part of the Europe Direct Center Unione Montana Marca di Camerino, which, as some of you may know, is the co-organizer of this event, together with the European project ImproLANDS, co-funded by the Creative Europe program. Our Europe Direct Center is based in Camerino, in an inland area of the Marca region in central Italy. And this territory where we operate, in addition to the, let's say, typical challenges of rural and inland areas, was hardly hit by an important earthquake, unfortunately, back in 2016, and is unfortunately still mostly under reconstruction. And so in this context, our Europe Direct Center was founded by the European Commission in 2021 to establish a Europe Direct Center in this territory and to support mainly recovery, resilience of this territory. And our center, like all Europe Direct Centers that are present throughout the European Union, acts basically as a hub for information, for dissemination of European policies, opportunities, programs, etc. For citizens, for example, for local enterprises, local administrations, non-profit associations, etc. And throughout these years, we've been organizing different types of activities, but actually our center has always had a special interest in supporting, let's say, in promoting the cultural and creative sector in this area and beyond. And this is why we've been glad to support the co-organization of this event. And so today, as the title of the event says, the objective of today is to talk about, let's say, the different gender inequalities that still exist and persist in several sectors of the cultural industries. Today, we will focus actually mostly on the performing arts sector. But we wanted to do this with a sort of participatory perspective, which means by listening directly to the voices of those impacted, of those working directly in this sector, the artists themselves. And so today, throughout our discussions, we will have the chance to listen to several artists and professionals from the sector, to listen to their stories, experiences, to learn also about their innovative projects and inspiring practices. And so, first of all, I would like to extend a big and heartfelt thank you to all artists and speakers who are here today with us and who, I would say, courageously agreed to share their experiences, their stories with all of us. I think it's a precious gift that requires each of us to embark on this journey with empathy, with readiness to listen, I think. And so thank you to all artists and speakers here today. And now, just a few, let's say, practical information about today. First of all, in a minute, I will leave the floor to Emanuela Del Sabio, who is the coordinator of the European project ImproLANDS, that, as you know, as mentioned before, it's the co-organizer of this event. And Emanuela actually is the real creator of this event, the idea behind of this event came from her. So thank you very much to Emanuela, because really without her, this event would not have been possible. And Emanuela will talk more, a little bit more about the ImproLANDS project that we've mentioned, and also about today's topic, and a little bit about, you know, how the event today is structured throughout the different interventions of speakers and artists that she will moderate. Also, at the end of towards the final part of the event, there will be a Q&A session, a question and answer session, where each of us will have the possibility to ask questions, make comments, etc. So if you want to do so, if you want to ask a question, for example, you can either write the question, the comment in the chat, or you can take the floor during the Q&A session by using by raising your hand. There's a Zoom related function at the bottom that you can use, and we will try to give the floor. We will try to respect the order of appearance of questions if possible. Also, last but not least, when taking the floor, either when you speak or to ask questions, please introduce yourself by saying your name, and if possible, by saying your pronouns. This will help us maintain a safe and inclusive environment, and also avoid misgendering. In a minute, I will paste in the chat if it's not been done already. But anyway, a sort of guidelines or code of conduct, let's say, for the participation in this event, because we want to make sure that the event runs smoothly and safely, let's say. So this is all from my part. Thank you again to all of you for being here and for your attention. And now I will leave the floor to Emanuela. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roberta. We have a technical problem. So before going on, we haven't been able to unmute other participants. So just to try to make sure to unmute all before we continue with the introductions.
Okay, right. Now they are joining, I think. Shall I repeat, or we maybe go on, Emanuela?
If you just want to say a few words saying that they have missed the introductions, but I mean,
okay.
I'll go on.
Right. Okay. So hello and welcome to all participants. Welcome to the event, the Gender Inequalities in the Cultural Sector, a roundtable of experience sharing. We've had some technical problems, so we have started with a short introduction in the meantime, but just a few minutes long. But anyway, it was just to present the event and the main co-organizers of this event, which are the Europe Direct Center, Unione Montana Marca di Camerino, and the European project ImproLANDS, who will now take the floor. And as I was saying, the objective of today's event is to speak about gender inequalities, especially in the performing arts sector, let's say, mostly, but with a participatory perspective where we really wanted to listen to the voices of artists and professionals directly working and experiencing, directly working in this sector. So thank you very much. And now I'm really leaving the floor to Emanuela. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Roberta. Thank you everyone for joining today. Can you see my slides? Just thumbs up if you do. Okay, good. So I'm Emanuela, ImproLANDS, a project manager and developer. I along with Daniele Pettinari, who joined us today. A special thanks to Europe Direct for hosting this event and for their fundamental support to the ImproLANDS project. And I would also like to thank all the project partners that are connected today. So Accademia 56 from the Marca region, Las Cosas que Hacemos from Spain, Shoshin Theatre from Cluj, and the Synergy Music Theatre from Larissa, Greece. Lastly, I want to express my sincere appreciation to all the speakers, artists, performers, professionals who will share their personal insight and experience on gender disparities in the cultural and creative sectors today. So, per the agenda, that doesn't move. Okay. Per the agenda, we'll start the roundtable by presenting the ImproLANDS project very briefly, and I will also briefly present artists' main challenges in the cultural and creative sectors. After my presentation, I will give the floor to Melissa Tomasini from Europe Direct, who will share strategies and good practices to tackle these challenges. And then I will give the floor to the artist. And they will, the order will follow the list you see in the slides, and very soon that I will paste on the chat. So I hope I will manage the time well, that we will manage the time well, all of us. And then at the end, we are going to take questions from the audience. And I know that some people from the audience wanted as well to share some experiences, so they are welcome to do so. Before presenting the project, I also want to say a few words about today's events. Today's event was supposed to be a private internal event of the project. So we Europe Direct, we wanted to open it up for different reasons. First of all, I think we all think that it's good to raise awareness about the topic. And secondly, we wanted to give voices and learn from the women and non-binary artists that are present today. After today, we are going to draft some gender guidelines for the project, and we didn't want the guidelines to be only drafted on the basis of reports. And lastly, I think that we wanted to contribute as well to creating a space where people feel comfortable to speak about challenges they face in the sector, and maybe we will inspire each other to create more and more spaces to do so. So after this brief introduction, I start to present very quickly the project. ImproLANDS, the ImproLANDS project is a project funded by the Creative Europe program. It will last 22 months. It started in January 2024 and will end in October 2025. I already thanked the partners who shaped the consortium, and it will take place in the inlands of the Marca region, the province of Segovia, the county of Cluj, and the city of Larissa in Greece. So the project is really about bringing improvisational theater and different techniques of theater in what we have called lonely places, remote areas. Roberto already mentioned that one of these areas in Italy was hit by the earthquake. We also know that Greece, in Larissa, was hit by floods. In Spain and Romania, we saw a lack of services, structural barriers, lack of cultural offers. So we really wanted to go to have an experience of closeness with the communities living in these places. The activities we committed to the European Union is really a summary. We're going to organize 3 transnational artistic residencies in Italy, Spain, and Romania, with a final event in Larissa, Greece. So at the end of June in Italy, we will have the first Italian residency. So Italians join us, the Italians who are connected today. We're also organizing ImproLabs with the communities of the inlands at local level. So we will try to do in the end, we will try to deliver some results. The main results, they're not all of here, are a project documentary through the participatory video techniques and a report on the methodology and the co-creation process. So the methodology of the project is one of the most important elements of the proposal we have written. We are really trying to mainstream all these approaches. So the co-creation process between artists. I mean, we would like the artists to learn from each other and co-develop new artistic content. We will see how it goes. The community involvement, we will try to involve community at all levels of the implementation of the project. So not only in labs, but in shows and in the video through the participatory video techniques. Place-based approach is quite important because we're trying to connect with all local stakeholders and trying as well to integrate the social and emotional heritage of the communities in the artistic content. Lastly, cross-cutting issues. We want to pay attention to gender. This event is a good opportunity as well to widen the network to speak about this and inclusiveness and sustainability, but also attention to integrate vulnerable groups into the theater labs. For example, just yesterday, Italy had a lab with a group of recovering female breast cancer survivors using Nordic walking as a rehabilitation sport. It went really well. We will share news very soon. The feedback was really positive. I'm really, really happy about it. So the main objectives of the project are to foster societal resilience and personal transformation through theater. To support the well-being of the communities, we believe that mental health is really a collective responsibility. So we want to use participatory art to support mental health, to strengthen the right of access to cultural in lonely places, and to promote the transfer of audio-visual skills. So I hope that was quick. Before going on, I would like to introduce very quickly the topic of today and the challenges, like start introducing the challenges, because then the speakers will go on and add further content to this. So first of all, gender equality is a protected right at the international and European level. It is a human right and a founding principle of the European Union. We operate under the Gender Equality Strategy 2020-2025 and the Work Plan for Culture, which recognizes gender equality as a fundamental pillar. Melissa Tomasini will explain a little bit further that part, the policy framework. So the pandemic, just a brief, I just wanted to briefly mention the pandemic because the cultural and creative economy of Europe was hit hard by the pandemic, and the artists who suffered the most the crisis are the artists working in circus, theater, music, and dance, so the performing arts. They are still recovering from the crisis, and the crisis worsened the gender, the poverty gaps, the gender poverty gaps, particularly for women who are more likely to hold temporary jobs, part-time jobs, and unstable jobs. The situation is even more aggravated when women are marginalized based on their race, disability, gender identity, sexual orientation, or care responsibility. And all the reports you have seen before and I show in the previous slides show that and state that. So some of the challenges we read about. Gender stereotypes and gender biases. We know that gender norms create gender stereotypes and that are harmful to both men and women. Young women are often highly sexualized or infantilized, while older women are desexualized and limited to care work. Women who challenge these norms are often considered difficult and radical. Present. and are not given the same opportunity to access leadership positions. Men are also affected by gender norms and by the narrow definitions of masculinity. So from an intersectional point of view as well, the reports state that women of color have reported feeling less free to express themselves and their ideas, so other minorities. Sexual harassment and sexual abuse affect women artists, lesbian, bisexual, gender diverse, transgender, persons with disabilities, racialized people, and individuals with previous experiences of sexual violence to a greater extent. So we are currently in a post-Me Too era, and we are more vocal about this. We question white male privilege more and white female privilege too. But workers in the creative and cultural sector are more exposed to sexual violence, still more than before, because in this sector there is the tendency to value physical appearance over experience and talent, and because we tend to sexualize the bodies, especially female bodies, more. Financial instability, as said, worsened with the coronavirus pandemic. And the research shows that women were 50% more likely than men to be uncertain about their futures in the performing arts and that they want to quit. Which brings us to reflect about the inability for women to plan for the future and to take risks, which is a fundamental part of the career choices in this field. Like, I want to go to have an experience in London and I want to go for 6 months. It's much harder for women to do so, especially when they have dependents. Gender pay gap and labor segregation. The gender pay gap is around 14%, and women tend to work in less prominent and lower paid positions in all sectors, such as retail management, coordination, assistance, administration, and public relations and marketing. Men, on the other hand, dominate the creative and technical domains and hold most leadership positions. Care work. Women are primary caregivers for children and elderly relatives. Most of the unpaid care work in families and communities is performed by women. They have difficulties in re-entering the sector after maternity leave or career breaks, and it is especially difficult for women to combine irregular working hours, which is really particularly pertinent in the creative sector, and childcare. Difficulty in entering the arts labor market or prestigious position is strictly linked to value. Female artists and creators are less visible and less valued. Data show that inequalities in the visibility of works created by women is less visible, and not only that, but that women achieve lower artistic recognition both by peers and audiences. And I was really sad to know and see that also they are less recognized by peers. So I cannot go on because we don't have time and we want to hear from you, but just briefly, other challenges cannot deepen now, but I'll only mention are lack of resources for women entrepreneurs, lack of business skills, lack of systematic data on the gender gaps in the subsectors, digitalization and the underrepresentation of women in information and communication technology studies, male-dominated working spaces that make it hard for women to express themselves creatively. And lastly, but I'm really fond of these areas and topic, and that's also why I asked Shara Progetti to share their project Gender Matters. Women often find themselves trapped in relationships and families that leave little room for artistic expression due to the societal pressure to prioritize romantic love, partners, and or families. So this was just my introductions. I'll shut up now. I hand it here, and I'm sorry if I spoke more than I should have, and I leave the floor to Melissa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Manuela, for this comprehensive overview of the sector and the amazing project that you're carrying out. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melissa Tomasini, Project Assistant at the Europe Center, and I'm very pleased to be discussing with you this topic that is high on the European institutions' political agenda, as shown by the recent reports that have been published during and post-pandemic, and crucial on the job, as we will hear from you. I have not prepared a presentation, so I hope I won't be too boring. As a cross-cutting issue, gender equality is a core value anchored in the EU treaties and one of the guiding principles enshrined in the European Pillar of Social Rights. Recently, reaching the gender parity has become a cornerstone of the Work Plan for Culture 2019-2020, the strategic framework for cultural policy making, which identified it as one of the 6 priority areas of work in the field of cultural and creative industries. While closing the gender gap is also the primary goal of the Gender Equality Strategy 2020-2025, within the cultural labor market, it is all the more prominent to ensure equal opportunities and participation, and we will see why. As Emanuela has already anticipated, a close look at the data available reveals that women make the bulk of cultural employment with a percentage higher than those in the total economy. However, female artists and cultural professionals face structural inequalities and compounding discriminations that have been dramatically exacerbated by the COVID crisis. To give an illustration, I shall point to the fact that they earn 14% less than men, even at the same level of seniority or in same position. And this is particularly striking within certain subsectors. For instance, in the European music industry, the gender pay gap stands at 30%. The whole occupational picture is further worsened by the intrinsic characteristics of working conditions in the cultural and creative sectors, such as unorthodox and flexible working hours, second jobbing practices, and high degree of labor turnover, which translate into precariousness of social rights such as parental leave, childcare, and pensions. Critically, these cumulative effects of gendered employment partners negatively impinge on the economic situation of women, exposing them to higher risks of poverty and exclusion in the later stages of their life. But it is important to stress that women are a heterogeneous group, and as such, an intersectional approach is to be embraced. Indeed, studies have shown, for instance, that women of color tend to be paid less than their white counterparts, and not only that, they are also likely to experience higher level of sexism and racism, which further marginalize them. So what can be done? I would love to hear some of your first-person accounts, which I think are extremely valuable to this conversation and nuances to that should be incorporated into possible solutions as we look forward in the post-COVID period. As a response to the manifold key challenges that have been observed, there are indeed strategies and actions that can be envisioned at different levels. First of all, as individuals working in the cultural and creative industries, I encourage you to report those conducts that may be humiliating, degrading, and ask yourself how inclusive your artistic practices or could be, and how it can accommodate not only women's perspectives and needs, but also non-binary identity persons, women with disabilities, and belonging to ethnic minorities. Unfortunately, as Emanuela was mentioning, there is a paucity on gender and age disaggregated data in the sector and respective subsectors that hinder any real estimation of the phenomenon. But this could be a first step to take into account different identities and tackle extant inequalities. Another option that I see as being useful is to adopt a set of coping strategies that may be defined both at the organization, at event, project level, with a view to formalize them afterwards. As regards work preparation, I encourage you to consider how meaningfully activate gender mainstreaming across all artistic phases, horizontally and vertically, from project design and artist and professional selection to implementation, communication, and dissemination activities. This is something I praise ImproLANDS for, and Emma in particular. Ideally, we may take this ambitious initiative to rethink and improve our way to deal with women's work and value recognition, and encourage their fair and equal representation in each work package foreseen. Maybe this is just a first step of this long-term process. You may know that around 95% of cultural enterprises in the EU are maker and small businesses, and therefore this lack financial resources to sustain long-term challenges and changes such as the adoption of codes of conduct or guidelines, gender quotas. So while this issue clearly requires special attention on behalf of policymakers and financial institutions, networking among women helps shed light on issues of gender stereotypes, visibility, as well as encouraging info sharing. We should bear in mind that most of the knowledge and cultural products available is indeed generated by men and male-dominated spaces. A few recommendations on how to ensure that work and creation spaces, especially for those of you who run companies, are gender sensitive are the following. For instance, elaborating, as I was pointing to, gender equality guidelines, committing to raising awareness of your colleagues and monitoring progress throughout the process and within your entity, ensuring that there are mechanisms in place that promote a better care work and a work-life balance, such as parental leave, and use of an inclusive language, as we are doing today, which is instrumental to improving social attitudes within your organization. Currently, gender budgeting is being debated, but not fully enabled at the policy and operational level, and it should be contemplated to match spending with gender targets. This is partly being made, for instance, in the resilience program in each member states within the framework of the Next Generation EU. But it's not enough. What is imperative, I would argue, is to build a case for a more even and better distribution of resources. Lastly, since this project is funded by Creative Europe, our hope for the future is to have a higher percentage of funding going to women and gender diverse persons. And on top of that, to see specific funding that question being allocated to projects that question traditional gender identities and stereotypes. I would say that's all from my side. And although there is much more to add, I look forward to having a fruitful exchange and to hearing your experiences as artists and professionals. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Melissa. All important questions. And I hope we will come back to your questions as well at the end of the roundtable. So let's start to hear from the professionals. I give the floor to Romina Antonelli. Please introduce yourself and share your content. And if you have any technical problem, just tell us. The floor is yours, Romina. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Romina. I am a dramatist and comedian. I live in Italy, and I have been doing this job for 25 years, more or less. I would like to share a question. I think it's peculiar, but I hope relatable too. And I'll start with an anecdote. Nothing special, quite common, unfortunately. Some time ago, while scrolling my wall on Facebook, I received an invitation to a stand-up comedy event. I read the wall calendar and I see that there are 10 shows and 10 male comedians. Someone made a comment about this tragic lack of ladies on the organization's Facebook page. Something like, wow, all men, the club of the guys, or something like that. And the guy from the organization immediately answers with another comment, we can say a little bit passive aggressive. Oh my dear, the fact is that unfortunately we didn't find any female comedian. You know, girls are still a little bit shy about that. We hope things will change in the future. Ending with the heart emoticon. So I felt a sort of humiliated for my fellow female comedians, more for this hypocritical answer than for the absence of women. I would have preferred an answer like, okay, we want to be just between men. And I would have said, okay, I respect this, it's perfect. So my first instinct was to reply, you didn't find girls in stand-up comedy because you didn't search for them. There are female stand-up comedians. I know them personally, so I know that they are. And we are not shy about that. You are blind about us. That's deeply different. But then I say to myself, it is really worth it. Would I really want to convince people who don't want to change their mind? And can we really call a creative space a place where insiders are blind and deaf to what more than half of the world's population has to say? I don't think so. And I will quote Virginia Woolf, who wrote, I thought how unpleasant it is to be locked out, and I thought how it is worse, perhaps, to be locked in. So I reflect on that. It's far more interesting asking myself, how can I create my own space? How can we create our own space? A space where an artist, who happened to be a woman too, in my case, can express herself, can exist without forcibly cancel herself to be accepted. A place where different kind of people can be authentic and brave, not a safe space, but a place I can take some risk, which I can call freedom and creativity. To be clear, I am perfectly aware about the fact that women need to feel safe. I am one of them. But I also want a world in which I can explore and make mistakes. Otherwise, it's too boring, too predictable. It's not art, it's not creativity. Another element I'm reflecting on is the myth of the empowerment. The fact that we have to be extraordinary to find our space. I don't want to be extraordinary. I am not extraordinary. I am a totally regular human being. But I have the right to express myself as well. And still I have the right to express myself as irregular as I am, exactly as many regular men have done for centuries. So the only thing we have to demonstrate as artists, I think, is something to demonstrate to ourselves. Have we really something relevant to say? And are we ready to consider ourselves as a relevant voice in society? So my point is, let's create our own world. Let's connect as artists, entrepreneurs, and stop being a mirror for someone else's ego, because history of music or movies or theater is full of stories like that. Again, Woolf, this is very famous, that quote, women have served all these centuries as looking glasses possessing the magic and delicious power of reflecting the figure of man at twice its natural size. So if we take history of theater, we have just men, barely. It could be frustrating thinking about the past, but it's far more frustrating thinking about the present. Sure, there are not so many women doing what I do, for example, but when they are not seen, or they are removed. But the extraordinary, like, for example, Sarah Kane, and the irregular ones, as the stand-up comedians I mentioned before. Me, I have been in several all-male groups. Sometimes has been awful, because you can feel the only woman in the room, also after years, and you can feel the misogyny, even if it's not openly expressed. It's not always that bad, sure. Sometimes it can also be funny. But sure, I can say that the happiest days I lived as a comedian, it has been when I have gone on stage all by myself, bringing my body, my own ideas, my own words. Maybe it's just because I am more a solo artist, or maybe because it's the only way to be really free and true to myself. I don't know, that's a question I share with you. But what I have to say is that when I am on stage as a woman, I can speak about everything, not just about what is considered women issues. Pollution, war, peace, motherhood, friendship, poverty, health, those are all women issues too, because are human issues. So I would conclude by quoting Carla Lonzi, an Italian feminist who really inspired me. I have tried to translate her. It's not so easy to translate her because she writes in not a exactly easy way, but I've tried. She wrote, "I don't search anymore for something I miss. I generate it. That moment, we are really able to deeply change our life. Since I am not anymore a servant of a master, I become conscious and I introduce in the world the unpredictable subject." So, what I have to say in the end is, let's create something, let's see if it's possible to create something unpredictable in synergy. Thank you.
Fantastic.
I think I'm clapping on behalf of the group, Romina. I think you opened up like a kind of many thoughts and inspirational thoughts. Thank you for saying so many things. I have so many notes about this. We'll come back to that maybe at the end of the roundtable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also make me think, that maybe we should come back together again and do something more. But I mean, let's see that. The next one, Tom and Natalia, the floor is yours.
So, hi, good afternoon. My name is Tom. I am a non-binary trans person, and I think it's important to talk about the barriers we have as trans artists in Europe, because what is not discussed is marginalized. In order to understand the different barriers, it's important to know obstacles we face on a daily basis. Sorry. I'm sorry. I think my laptop is very lag. I don't know why. I think it's the internet.
I can say, Tom, that we see the slides well, and they are moving.
Yeah, but right now it's like freeze, right?
No, try to move the slides. Now it's freeze. Yes, now it's frozen. No, but now it's moving. Yeah, quantitative barriers we see.
Okay, thank you. Well, the annual incident rate of violence or harassment towards trans people is near 1 incident for every 2 trans people. And these physical, sexual assaults, violent threats occur everywhere you walk, in your own home, at school, at university, everywhere.
And now I'm going to talk about briefly quantitative barriers. And I have to say that as I listened to the previous presentations, that they concord between women and trans people, because we found just a few, but the first, for example, is gender pay gap, and even though we haven't found enough studies to support this is a subjective presentation, you know, and we actually haven't found numbers like large studies on these topics. Also, we have representation in positions of powers, just like it happens to women. You won't find a lot of trans people being represented in various sectors of entertainment industries, such as the directors, producers, and executives. The last 2 quantitative barriers are, of course, the limited opportunities. And for this one, we found the European Union Agency of Fundamental Rights survey on discrimination on fundamental rights, and that says that 20% of trans people that were surveyed in Europe were unemployed, compared to the 10% of general population. And we all know that, you know, unemployment is a problem, but it's even worse if you are trans. Also, the gender stereotypes, of course, that limits opportunities for trans people, particularly in terms of the type of roles that they are offered and that they find themselves that are obliged to accept, because of course they want to get the job. And on the other hand, the qualitative barriers, where we also found some numbers regarding the discrimination and prejudice. In this study that we mentioned, where 43% of trans individuals that were surveyed in Europe had experienced lots of discrimination, verbal harassment, intimidation, or physical harassment in different areas, and especially in their workplace, and also unemployment. And also the objectification and sexualization of trans individuals that are too subjected to stereotypes and prejudices, just like women, and which also limits their ability to be taken seriously as artists. And the last 2 qualitative barriers that we found was the lack of diverse characters. As you know, we only know about trans characters because they portray usually trans characters, and their storyline usually speaks about that, and only that. You won't find complex or realistic trans characters. And also the cultural norms and audience expectations. And we found this very interesting because we think that it perpetuates the cycle, because a lot of directors are afraid of representing trans people in lead roles or different roles, because they fear the audience won't accept that, and they will probably be affected financially regarding the gains of the project. This constant violence has a consequence when it comes to the artistic world, where the representation of trans people is very little. Not only do you have to fight to get roles in series, television, films, or commercials, but also not to be subject to violence, discrimination, harassment, and more. We are artists. We just don't get the chance to show it. And once you manage to your talent to the world, it's you against the transphobic world, because they don't see your talent, they just see that you are a trans person. As an example of this, why do we know that the legal name of La Veneno, Cristina, is Joselito, but we don't know the legal names of other famous people, like, for example, Lady Gaga. As well as this example, there are more that only shows transphobia. Why is it so difficult to make cultural and artistic space safe for everyone? Because we haven't even managed to equalize salaries for cisgender men and women, because there is a lot of patriarchy, because there are more opportunities for cisgender men, because there is misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and more. But there is no desire to educate yourself, to change things, because we are not a majority. Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you so much for your presentations, and it was as well as inspiring as before, Tom and Natalia. Thank you so much. I've taken some notes, and I think we could go back as well to the question of value and talent. I think it's really, really important what you say, that people tend to see that the trans person just a trans and that doesn't have artistic talent and other things you said. So thank you for contributing to the discussion. Let's continue with the roundtable. Let's hear from Francesca.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I'm Francesca, and I know that I'm aware of the fact that I'm full of privilege, because I am a white woman. I live in Italy. I had the possibility to choose this job, but nevertheless, I've got during all these last 25 years lots of problems, not only because you have always to find money to survive with this job, but especially with this sort of misogyny in which you have to deal with. So after my degree, I went to Rome, and I wanted to work with the cinema, but it was quite difficult, because from the beginning I experienced immediately the little power games, mainly related to the sexual dimension of directors towards actresses. So I never feel myself in a safe place, and each time I wanted to get a job, most of the time many male directors told me, but it would be easier if you spend the night with me, and so on. And also when you go to this agency, you were never beautiful enough, you were never tall enough, you were never good enough for anything. So after that, I decided to, I moved all over Italy. And since 2016, I came here to live in Macerata because I wanted to create my own project independently. So I started making films with a cooperative that houses mental and psychiatric patients and working with the scripts based on the improvisation of patient actors together with professional ones. And already in that context, I had several discussions with the male figure who worked with me, in the so specific the cameraman, and with the male actors. So phrases like, it would have been better to work with men because men are easier, are able to be heard more, are funnier, they are able to speak with a psychiatric patient. And it was not true because I could act with them with no problem. And so from the beginning it was quite difficult because I always try to find the right word to create an happy collaboration. So the character relationship was becoming more important than the work with the kids themselves. And the work in the end always went very well, but the feeling was always that I couldn't express myself the way I wanted to. And that little issue, certainly compared to the boys' illnesses, was nothing. And so it always remains what unresolved. Then the same thing happened several times. I only take two examples. When I wrote and directed the play starring a male actor, the same fear of becoming too critical or of not being taken too seriously reappeared. And the difference in treatment between me and the male musician was obvious. And another time, for the sake of the work, I let it slide once again. Until 2 years ago, the last Drugs Under COVID, I made a show that dealt with the violence against women. The title was Alice in the Box. And because of the pandemic, it was not possible to make a live show. And so I decided to make a theatrical film. In that case, I choose to deal with the issue using the box, the sport of the box. And I choose a semi-professional boxer because he had to hit me, but without killing me. And a video maker and the owner of the space that also did the sound. So I prepared myself a year between collecting experience of different women, parallel readings, the study of the box, organize a crowdfunding in order to be able to pay everybody. And I thought that perhaps on a subconscious level, I must have gone for the very prototype of the alpha male, the really true patriarch. And in fact, during the war, not the war, but it was a little war, the work, there were a lot of fighting. There was only my constant attempt to conduct all the war according to my wishes, but because the project was not a collective, none of them wanted to be part of the team. They only work as employees of the project. And nevertheless, there were so many failures on their part, so much difficult on my part to firmly demand what I wanted, that in the end I felt clearly that my personal power was fading away and that once again I was giving that power to someone else. After that, this project was broken. I dropped the project and started trying to figure out why all this happened. And I must say that after this experience, I really decided that I would no longer empower anyone and that I no longer cared about becoming hysteric or obnoxious, grumpy, serious, extremely professional. My fear is no longer directed at the other person, and maybe even the awareness of who I am, of my work, of my experience, and even my age helps a lot. I'm no longer interested in solving that problem because it is no longer a problem for me. It is theirs. It is always difficult to survive with this kind of work that I want to fight one problem at a time. So this awareness then went hand in hand with the idea that the live show for me could not longer be enough to really get to bring something. The live show only goes so far. For example, when I tried to make my solo woman show inside the prison with male prisoners, they weren't interested in seeing the show. They didn't want to use their break to see a show. They wanted to create something with you. They wanted to move their body. They want an artistic creation. So I thought that passive viewing is not enough because there is so much need for help. The focus of my research in the last 2 years is to use the artistic dimension to help others find their own center, their own strength and their own talent. Of course, using my skills to the fullest, adapting them to the kind of audience. So, of course, with some group, you find that it is better to work with improvisation, with someone else with written lyrics, with other working with the body and the sound of the voice. So let's say that I've had really broad experiences that allow me to use different methods each time. So the gender problem in work, it is something, I hope to be clear because it is difficult for me to express in English, but it is something too small compared to the mess around it. And so I thought that I don't care because I'm interested in something else more noble. I wrote and did a comic monologue about a woman and the dimension of extreme sacrifice in love affairs, in work. And even there, every time, after every show, I am contacted and I'm asked, I saw your show, I understand so many things, but now what do I do? And so since I'm not a really fan of the psychological path and I'm not a psychologist, I'm sure that art and all its form is indispensable and more than necessary. And it is the dimension of interaction that work. Then certainly it is quite difficult to find the right artistic collaboration because the theatrical and cinematic dimension is rather egocentric anyway. But the goal, however, is not necessary to get along with other artistic practitioners, to find always a beautiful collaboration, but to create wonders with those who participate and really need something. Because I continue to hear that art is not democratic, but it is not true. Art is democratic, and it becomes more and more elitist, and we don't need this. I finish. I hope that you understand what I said.
Yes. Yeah, loud and clear, Francesca, clapping on behalf of everyone. Yeah, I also have plenty of notes of what you said. And actually, thank you so much because you mentioned so many barriers that were mentioned previously, but also new ones that make me think and all the effort you've done to produce your own work, place, to think strategically. That's a lot of mental charge that a woman has to take on their shoulder to yeah, to be an artist and to work. So maybe we will come back to questions after everyone has spoken. So now we go to Las Palencianos, Las Hermanas.
I love that.
And I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. We are so glad to be here and also so inspired by all of you. I'm Elizabeth Palenciano, she's Pamela Palenciano. Both of us, our pronouns are she, her. But we are really, really happy to be in this place where all the inclusion, because in these days, we really think that this is the space and this is the movement that we believe. And sometimes this is a barrier that we found, especially in Spain. The feminist movement is split right now, and we are really sad about it, but we are really happy to be in this initiative. So thank you for all your presentations. Also, I'm really inspired by Francesca because I agree with everything that you said. Art is a right. It must be something that our governments choose to push for people, no? And art has the capacity to transform people. So I feel really, really inspired by that. That being said, all of you are really well prepared, and we are like the Palencianos. We have a podcast, and we talk like sisters that we are.
En español, claro, en español.
In Spanish. So that's our dynamic. So yes, for all of you, maybe you know, maybe you don't know my sister. It's not because she's my sister, but she's the best. She's an artist, she's an actress. She is an activist, feminist. I admire her really much, and only because she's my sister, because she's, for me, she's like...
Eso te lo estoy entendiendo.
She understands me, but for me, she's like an icon of the Spanish feminists for me, and I know for a lot of young women. So she started really young to speak about violence in the 2000s, and as a millennial, that's huge because right now we have a lot of initiatives, we have a lot of projects, so we can talk about gender equalities, we can talk about everything, but in those days, it was really, really difficult. Also today, you know, some people want that we shut our mouth, you know, back to those days when woman doesn't have any words. So for me, she's really brave for that, because she suffered when she was a teenager, and she developed that experience in a show. The show is No Solo Duelen los Golpes. I will leave you the trailer in the chat. You can put English subtitles if you need, because she speaks really fast in Spanish. We are from the south. We are from the south of Spain, and as Andalusian, we have an identity, and we like to speak really fast. We like to speak with a lot of irony. We like to laugh about our suffer. So that's the strategy that my sister used when she do her performance in No Solo de los Golpes. She is one show, but she is also she represents a lot of characters in the monologue. She is 10 characters. She is able to put herself in the skin of her abuser. I don't know if that's good, you know what I mean? Sorry, my English is a little bit rusty. And the play is not only in theaters, also in a school. That's our object, or audience object for, you know, teenagers, because for us it's really important that in school the teenagers can learn about these issues. For us it's more important than, you know, maths or science. For us it's important that the teenagers know that if it hurts you, that's not love, that's violence. For us it's really important. So we use arts because we think is more interesting, because they are really boring about the typical feminist issues. They are like, oh no, again, they are going to talk about women's rights or whatever. And we use theater to show them that is different. What we are talking about is human rights. From our perspective, our feminist is also, she talks about the trans issue, LGTB problems. Also, you know, when a woman is white or not, the privilege, the patriarchy. So my sister not only talks about her experience, she puts the finger, you know, in everything that is in this world is a problem. So that's why we have issues to be in certain schools, because depends of the government we can work or not. So during the school year we have a lot of work, but as I said, it's really politicized, this topic. So sometimes we have a struggle to be in a room with teenagers, because they are minors. So we can, in I don't know how to say in English, but adoctrinar, like in English, I don't know how to say, Manuela.
Brainwash?
I think, yeah, brainwash. Good.
Yes, exactly. And we don't want that. We want to speak with the teenager as clear as we can in their language. We use, you know, street language. So that's what we want. But we use the theater. She also put the miracle strategy, you know, like if a man is like, you know, is like, she does that, and they can see that that is not good, that is a privilege, that they can speak like men. And also she puts like a hoodie, and she does like, you know, this is toxic masculinity. So for be a man, you don't have to do that to be a man. Men can speak, can cry. For us, it's really important to talk with the boys, with this boys, with heterosexual boys, because we want to say to them, you don't have to be a man like this. We don't want that. That's hurtful for all the world. So they can know that they have a privilege that woman we don't have, and we want to change that. But not for women, because we want to be, you know, in a better position, because we want equality. So sometimes this could be, sounds really simple, but it's really, really hard for them to understand this. It's like level 1, but they don't understand, because another barrier that we found in schools is social media. They have a lot of men in YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. There has this I don't know how to say, discurso,
A speech.
A speech really, really like male, you know, like they are the victims now because feminism is bad. So they think that, they really think that. Exactly. And we want to change that, because that's not the case. That's not true. We want equality. Sorry, I think I'm going to be, I'm a little, you know, But yeah, the patriarchy is the problem because it's a structure. That's our goal, and also has been created an influence in everyone since we are little kids. You know, when you're a woman, when you're a little woman, your parents, schools, they all people. Okay, you have to wear pink, you have to be feminine, you have to be soft, you have to be pretty. And if you're a man, you have to wear blue and you have to be brave, and that kind of things that we are tired of. And we want to build a world where we can be whatever we want, how we want to be, and we can love without violence. So, ¿algo más?
Yo creo que la explica muy bien.
So yeah,
Me has contado que estoy excluida por nuestras feministas en
yes,
España.
and another barrier that we have is also, as I said in the beginning, the feminist movement in Spain right now is really split, and we have some feminists that they don't support our show because we talk about trans women. We support trans women, trans people in general, and we have problems with this because we introduce this in our show. But as I said, we think that the patriarchy is the problem, and also if you are trans inclusive, you are aware that the problem is patriarchy. So you also can be a person that can suffer violence. So yeah, anything else? ¿Algo más? No? So yeah, I hope everything is clear. If you want to know more about Pamela, you can find her in her social media, Pamela Palenciano.
Si me la en inglés, pues tendré que pedirle que me traduzca, que no hablo inglés.
If you speak her in English, she doesn't understand. So,
pena, hija.
Well, she can use a Google Translator and.
También.
But yeah, thank you
very
much for
Thank
this
you.
space.
Thank you.
No, thank you to you. Thank you to you. Was amazing to hear from you. Also, before going to the next speaker, I wanted to say that I've seen Pamela at the theater, No solo duelen los golpes, the last week. It was amazing what she does, the work that she does with her body, with her voice, with the public, the interactions, everything is really well studied to make you have a perception of how gender roles impact on everything, even posture and everything. So I think it should transcend borders somehow. So let's hope that we can think about future project. It's inspiring for us project managers to to think about different way to do things. So the next one after Las Palencianos. So Kinga, I'll give you the floor now.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for sharing all your stories. Wow. Okay, me, I am a non-binary, white, highly sensitive person based in Berlin. And I am in cross and multidisciplinary art as a performer, and I also do drag. And this is my drag character, Anita. A little bit of schizophrenic presence here, or like a double personality. Yeah. So I wanted to share, like this recent years, I migrated from Cluj-Napoca to Berlin, and initially I just wanted to share this like etaps or like points in this journey with the lenses of institutional inequalities and becoming from being employed at the theater, going to freelance, yeah, changing countries and stuff like that. And then, like, I have to show this I mean, it's not really important, you can read it, but it's like, it became from these 3 words, like Cluj-Napoca, Budapest, and Berlin. And then I started to like write down stuff, and it's just too much. It's a lot of things. So I'm gonna just talk about how I coped and how I strategized my life through these inequalities, actually. And the main vehicle I was using was the drag and role playing, actually. So I will just start with an example. When I got into the theater, I was working for like 4 years kind of for free as a student. Then there was no free like spaces for new actors. So I was working as a collaborator. And then at one point, one space got free. And I was like, yeah, okay, so I'm next in the line. But actually, I didn't got the space because the director of the company said that it's a male space. It's reserved for men. Or like, yeah, it was a gendered space that I was not entitled to access. And yeah, I mean, in this time of my life, I wasn't really out, and I was mostly passing as a woman. So I kind of like decided to use the prejudices I get, or like the stereotypes I get as a feedback to my appearance, and just play with it. So if somebody said that, like, or somebody decided that I'm a boy or something like that, I was like, okay, let's try this. So I went and tried out this character. And in this whole theater structure really helped me, actually. Because when I just didn't want to get into the cis woman fighting club for roles, then I just presented myself as mask person, and then I could like go through this whole like forest of fighting for roles kind of okay, or like not hurting myself. I was, now looking back, I would say that I was the error in this whole system, and this I say it with pride, that I got to be the error. And the error looked like they couldn't give me roles. Like it was very hard for them to imagine me in any kind of roles. And this actually, it's a compliment. But it was hard because for me it wasn't really clear if it's the work I do or like the level of work I put in is criticized, or is my gender not good enough. And I always took it as, or like not took it, I think it was presented to me as something is not enough in my work. So at one point I decided to move to Budapest from this. I started doing drag, but just in my bedroom. It's the home drag. And just to like release all this tension that I got from the structures. And then when I moved to Budapest, it was the first year of the pandemic. It was very hard for everyone, I guess. And but I had a lot of home alone time, so I got really into drag. I want to like explore different gender fuckeries and like mixing gender and trying to like bend this whole normative structure of gender. And yeah, I also used digital platform for that, and it's really helped me to like create an escape route. And then the happy ending in Berlin. After 1 year of Budapest, I moved to Berlin, which is, well, now it's like hard to live here too, but in terms of like having a broader view on gender and trying to work on inequalities, I think it's better than Eastern Europe, where I came from. And also it gave me some kind of freedom to like explore drag outside of my home, putting it on stage, and it's the first time I got positive feedbacks for my work, and I could like really use that for like performance and acting skills. Yeah, it was really a good decision in this sense. I'm just thinking if I should say something. That I didn't say, but I think I touched all the points that I wanted to touch. Yeah, maybe just to go back for it, I think the positive and negative feedback related to gender is something interesting to talk about. That I never really had access living in Eastern Europe. It was very few opportunities that I got like really a positive feedback on my work. Yeah. I think this is all.
Thank you, Kinga. Thank you so much. A lot of inspirational content here too. The way you played with gender norms. I think it's really interesting to leave it open and just go with that and see what happens. Really impro. Very pertinent to ImproLANDS. Yeah, and also the way you became more and more conscious about your wish to use drag as an art and take it out. I think it's amazing. I'd love to know more about your shows or just the way you do that. So thank you so much, Kinga. And so I'll pass to Laura Suarez. Hola, Laura. Ciao.
Hola, ciao. Hello, everybody. Really glad to be here. Well, I'm actress, director, dramaturgist, and theater pedagogue. I join and produce most of my projects as Laura en órbita. I'm currently directing the inclusive company Vertebradas Artes Escénicas in Madrid, conducting inclusive theater permanent workshop, and where Vertebradas comes from, and teaching different kind of workshops. First of all, I want to support what the Valenciano sisters said, because one of our plays, a group called themselves progressive feminists were going to contract us, and when they knew that there was a trans woman actress, they decided not to contract us. So I wanted to say that in the beginning. Well, in our case, the main barrier is the treatment that society gives to people with functional diversity, even more so if it is intellectual functional diversity. It continues to be a stigma. Taken to performing arts, sometimes you really get disappointed. So I would like to share our experience and how real inclusion turns to be the best way to break down those barriers. I've been in performing arts since I was 18, but it was 20 years ago when I started working with people with intellectual disability, functional diversity. That definitely changed my perspective of life, society, and art. In that time, I was so sure that there was only a normal way of doing things. So it was a revolution finding out that there are as much ways of doing things as people that want to do them. I had to relearn everything. My need arises to understand in a practical way how to connect with these people and be able to perform in an authentic way with them. First step, observation. I went there with my theater tools. Some of them worked, others not at all. Others, maybe if I think them in a different way, if I consider another points of view, another bodies, another abilities. Second step, remain permeable to change, to the possibility of breaking out of molds and creating new structures. And third, patience, tons of patience. The try and error factor takes time and trains the capacity for frustration. It still works in this way for me. At the same time, inclusion, meaning working in interrelationship with people with different characteristics, any of them, takes place naturally in our projects. As many other things that happen to me, there is an intuitive pulse that moves me to take decisions. So, musicians, children, painters, teenagers, elder people, etc., began to take part in our plays and projects. I could experience how expressive skills were enhanced and noted in practice the richness of this inclusive proposal in its artistic, social, and pedagogic aspects. With this background, the gene that has been moving me all these years is the investigation of a transversal language where each person is able to express themselves with their own qualities and abilities. We also find out how the interweaving of those particularities generates a common and characteristic language. This permanent investigation gave place to the Teatro de la Experiencia practice, theater of experience. In our work, the starting point is the body. The theater would not exist without body. We perceive the world, express and communicate ourselves through it. All our life experiences are registered in us and stored in it. Both contains and transmit. Without training, we get in touch with that information source. Through full attention, based on specific physical instructions that allowed us to sharpen our senses, contact deep emotions, and develop our own images that will be manifested through our body, result of the authentic and subjective experience. There is a great similarity in the way we conceive our work with dance theater. As a matter of fact, the name of Theater of Experience is inspired in the book Pina Bausch, Dance Theater, written by Norbert Servos. We can read in it, the logic of feelings and affections is not governed by reason. Our aim is the transmission of our reality experienced by the body itself. Experience precedes rational explanation. This is our main tool. In several workshops and different projects, the results are amazing. The dynamic of the theater of experience have facilitated both relationships between the people of the group in a framework of inclusion, respect, and diversity, and connection with the different emotions in a safe environment. Well, I want to share the experience of our play, Diversas Mujeres, Diverse Women, the one that the progressive women didn't want to show. It is a poetical and emotional college whose protagonists are women aged from 8 to 78 years. The cycle of life and death, desire, childhood, violence, motherhood, heartbreak, identity are issues that we have worked on through our methodology, focused in the different feminine realities of our cast, cross-generational, functional diversity, trans identity, among others. We dug in each one's imaginary through improvisations inspired by our own experiences in poetry, different texts, inquiring in how to tell the stories that inhabit us, generating our own dramaturgy. I'll show you a little teaser of the play so you can have an idea. Let's see. Wait. Wait. Yeah, okay. So
¿Sabe qué hora se pieta el niño da de comer? Se le da la gana, señorito. No puede ser. Oye, hijo, es que mi hijo no llora.
Si quieres ser una chica, tienes que refinar las formas. Que no, que la biología no funciona así, es que no puedes ir en contra de la naturaleza. Arranco las puertas. ¡De cuajo!
¡Para que entre el viento!
¡Y el rico del mundo! ¡Destrozo las
So, okay. Let's see. Well, I want to emphasize how our methodology leads to inclusion, to self-respect, to learn from others, from our differences, and grow in sensitivity and at the same time in strength to deal with barriers. I will conclude with a few words of our two trans actresses that confirm my statement. Laura, who is 17 years old, says, "It's helping me to immerse myself in my own femininity by sharing it with other women in a non-judgmental space. The sense of community in theater becomes a sense of personal community through which I feel femininity as something to share and that makes me feel collected." And Zoe says, "When I joined the group, I was still strengthening my own identity as a woman. Seeing how so many other women from such diverse backgrounds and with such different stories made me part of their group, made me feel more confident and comfortable in my own identity as a woman. I have also learned a lot from each of them and I admired them deeply. I learned what it means to be a woman in a larger community and in a judgment-free environment, also through seeing and understanding how my partners embodied their own identity as women." So, well, we continue working for a sensitive, inclusive, and without barriers world. And thank you very much.
Clapping for everyone. Laura, thank you so much. Your English is amazing. You had you say you say I'm unsure about my English. It's amazing. Thank you so much to share more details about the methodology you use in your theater. I'll come to see you on the 16th. Venga, yeah. Amazing. So I'll be happy to meet the group. And thank you very much for what you said about the logic of the body and the fact that we had to be permeable to changes, because personally I met different working groups, most of them male dominated, but in general, and this is across sectors, sometimes when we want to work in one way and we know that that way works, we don't want to change anymore. And this is something that it goes on and on as well in project management and other sectors. Sometimes just people want to do what it's safe. And that brings to close up new opportunities and a new way to see life and work and relations. But anyway, thank you so much. I'll give the floor to Roberto Masullo, project manager of Creative Europe, but I let you introduce because you might have other roles you want to share, Roberto.
Thank you, Manuela. The project manager of Gender Matters is enough. So I was invited by Manuela and by the ImproLANDS group to share a little bit about our experience in Creative Europe. The project we developed was called Gender Matters. It should sound relevant to the topics of this today roundtable. The project is going to finishing by the end of May, and I will take the advantage to share with you that we are organizing the final conference to where we invite the actors and actresses and technicians, all people who participated in the project to share their experience. So in case after my speech you are interested more, I will make sure that you receive the link to this conference where you can grasp some insight from this project. It's been a tough project, 4 years, and it is the cooperation by 3 theater companies. In Italy, Sciarra Progetti Teatro, which today I represent, Compagnie Dionama from Marseille, and Teatro Metafora from Madeira Island, Portugal. The whole idea of the project is an important story to tell. Sciarra Progetti was the main producer of a performance monologue called Malanova, which means bad news. And Malanova is the story of Anna Maria Scarfò. Anna Maria Scarfò was a teenager in the 90s. She was living in a small village in South Italy, and she was victim to repeated violence in the small village by a group of men. The story came to the titles of the main newspapers in Italy. From the titles, Ture Magro, which is one of the founder of Sciarra Progetti, created the monologue performance inspired by the story of Anna Maria Scarfò, which was not just about a story of violence against women, but it was also a story about the old villagiers who didn't show support for Anna Maria, but instead took the side of the perpetrators of violence. So you can still find the pieces of the articles, and there is also a book which is also called Malanova, which can tell and narrate the story. So after this monologue performance was created, Sciarra Progetti started touring across Italy, and the performance was repeated hundreds of times. From the performances, we got inspired. I'm not directly part of Sciarra Progetti, but I have my own association in Napoli, and we usually organize youth projects. Since we met, we got inspired by this story and by the performance, and we organized some trainings under the Erasmus Plus program, talking about gender topics and violence generally. From the experience of the trainings under the Erasmus, we came up with the idea to try out with the Creative Europe. So we organized this project, and which we called Gender Matters. Basically, the project was the idea of the project was to create new performances, new mise en scène, to organize tours in Europe, so that we thought the message of this production was important to transfer to an European audience. But the monologue performance initially was in dialect, in Sicilian, and partially in Calabrese. And so it was really not accessible to anyone. So what we did was to organize a series of artistic residency in these countries, in Italy and in France, where we could allow that each company could express and share their experience at professional level, but also about the topics. So we've been working for 2 years, and of course, after 1 year and a half, we had nothing in our hands, and the time was running out. And as a manager, I started feeling some pressure because we had to organize an important tour in Europe, which was proclaimed at the start of the project. But happily, thanks to the organization of some extra artistic residency, at the end we came up with a brilliant show, which was called Human Constellations. At the moment, we finished the project, so I have no idea if the show, which was the product of a co-creation, a co-production, will be displayed in other theaters. But what we did we managed to organize this tour in Europe 1 month on the board of the Bus Theater. The Bus Theater is another theater company based in Napoli. They converted a double-decker bus, Mercedes bus, into a moving theater. So this company deals a lot with the street art, new circus. The whole companies, the French, Portuguese, and Italian. So we put together a team. We managed to travel 1 month in Europe across several countries with a specific strategy. So we brought this show plus other small performances, which created a surrounding for the main show. We brought it to festivals, to performing arts centers. We met up with anti-violence centers and associations. So there was the possibility for us, for the team, also to discuss about the topics of the project and share ideas and views about this. I must say that it has been a remarkable experience, but it was not only pleasure. It's been also a lot of pain. It's good to come together and share points of views and different perspectives, but the topic really brought out a lot of different experiences, personal views on the matters. And what I can share here is that we experienced violence during this project, since one of the French actresses, we saw that she was not feeling comfortable working with the group. And while digging into the matter, we found out that she had violence problems in her family. So very paradoxically, we were implementing a project tackling violence against women, and we experienced violence inside the project ourselves. At the end, she couldn't participate for the rest of the rehearsal, so she decided to abandon the project, very sadly. But speaking from me and maybe from some other colleagues, this was for sure one of the highlights, which let us think that the topics that we discussed during the project were important. So this is it. I hope I didn't get you bored with my story. I hope you we'll have the chance to see human constellations. It means that the partners stopped killing each other and found an agreement on how to proceed. So Manuela, I give you back the...
Yes, Roberto, thank you so much for showing and telling us a little bit about the story of gender matters. I think we're all interested to receive the links, the materials. So I do propose to the group, we don't have a lot of time left. That was predictable because there were a lot of speakers. I still suggest to take a few minutes more just to see if there's any other question or stories. But I would like to propose to everyone to share their address, mail and contacts here on this chat with a brief presentation so that we can keep in contact. And we can send each other material and invite to events online or in presence in our countries. So just please write in the chat. So for the rest, I would like to know if any one of you have questions or other project to present before closing the meeting. Or comments or observations or anything really. I think it's a beautiful space. I think everything that was said was really inspiring and relevant and important. And what I really wanted to say as well is that with Europe Direct, there's a bunch of project managers here, and sometimes it's seen as a very strict job, but in reality it's really creative and we really need to be aware of many things and want to know more about many topics in order to bring people together and do nice projects, socially oriented project. I think Roberta knows what I'm speaking about because she also followed this line. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to know more. Thank you to your testimonies. Anyone want to join or has questions? Julia, you wanted to add something or anything?
I am overwhelmed and by all these contributions, actually. I just want to maybe stress out a little aspect that I think that has emerged during our confrontations today, that is this strong relation that we can tell between arts, creativity, artistical practices, performative arts, and the impact on health and well-being of individuals and communities, different kind of impacts, not only about mental health, but definitely that's an important side and we cannot overlook it. But I think that this is a major subject that we should address also as cultural sector, because we can find, and we all have always searched for strong relations with the social and the health sector, or like penitentiary, as Francesca was telling about her experience, so prisons. And I think that this social aim of what we are doing with culture, it cannot be the primary driver of what we're doing, not always. Of course, this is not its mission, not the main one, probably, but it's part of the framework. So in this very rich framework, I think that put ourselves in the perspective of being able to just to intercept and assess what we are doing in terms of well-being on everybody involved in the project should be something that it's part of how we develop the projects and how we shape our activity. It's something that is already embedded. Many of us already are doing this without even notice it. But be aware, because the European Union is putting an accent on it, so we should be really careful also and open our ears to what is coming and how we are calling it, because cultural welfare, arts and health, they are my topic, of course, so that's my soft spot. It's my research topic, but they are very in the eye of the tiger, we can say, at the moment. So they are at the center of many attentions. And if we already have those competencies, we should be able to announce them and to valorize them. Probably we don't need to do a lot of work learning and training ourselves in how to deliver a project with people that suffer from violence or they are part of minorities. But we should be able to recognize how the environment around us is changing, and the words that they are using to describe this change that was already embedded in the sector, but that policymakers haven't noticed. So be aware of that, because it's a topic, I think, and it's a really changing world, and we should allow ourselves to know which are the tools that could help us. So that was just my suggestion, because I find myself many times talking with people that are doing something that actually now has a name, especially in Italy since 2020, that is cultural welfare. And it's important just to be aware of what we are doing and how to present those impacts in a certain way, no? I hope that this can be helpful also for searching for funding for the future. That is always a sustainability issue. So.
Very helpful, Giulia. Very helpful, especially because the Creative Europe program, for example, is really trying to invest as well in promoting gender, project in the creative sector, but also in gender equality. And because we have spoken about the lack of data, we heard Tom saying that they didn't find reports on the trans disaggregated data in subsectors. I think there's a lot of space to create projects as well in that sense, for example, research-wise, but then artistically as well. Anyone else? Sorry, Apollonia, would you? I know you wanted maybe to say a few words, but I'm not sure. You're not obliged, but in case, as you put me, Apollonia, help us get Kinga. Yay.
Yeah, I'm not so fond of public speaking, but I would like to thank everybody for joining and being here and sharing stories that are close